Good morning. For our database, we're going to go with the MongoDB Atlas to host the database. And they have a free plan, so we're going to get advantage of that. You're going to go on the website link and click try for free. Then create an account, and I'll see you on the other side. Then you will end up on this page. Just fill the information with whatever feels right. It doesn't really matter. And then we're going to start creating our first database. You want to go with the M0 type of database. It is free. You want to disable the preload sample dataset. We want an empty database and pick a region of somewhere in North America. It is where the actual database will be. And it's important to choose something in the North America because it's likely that it is where our web server, the brain of our app, will be also hosted. So we want to minimize the distance between the two. And then you can just create a deployment. And you might have to face a little CAPTCHA. Okay, you will arrive on this page, and to connect to your database, also called a cluster, you will need to set up a username and a password. Then you can just create a database user. So these users that I just created will have access to the database, and you can say choose a connection method. You can choose Compath for now, and we're just gonna do this. You're just gonna copy that little complicated URL that we have here, put it somewhere in a notepad or something. We're gonna need it later. And then you can click done and you should be good to go. We need to set up a little thing. So on the left side, go to the network's access setting and then add an IP address, and you will say allow access from anywhere and then confirm. The fact that we allow any IP from the internet to access our database does not mean that they can do anything. They still need to have credentials to access the database. The IP verification thing is just an extra layer of security that we need to remove, because if you go to a coffee shop, for instance, your IP will change and you will need to every time update your IP in the database. And also later, when we're going to deploy our application to production, we will not be the one accessing the database. It will be our web server that will access the database. And we don't necessarily know the IP of the web server, so it's much easier to allow any IP to access the database and just verify using the credentials. Okay, then you can go back to the database, and we're going to explore a little bit this part. This thing called cluster 0 is your actual cluster. It's a physical space somewhere in Oregon in the US, where you own a little part of a server and your database is hosted. So let's browse the collection, see what we have in there. And normally your database should be completely empty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my own data. I'm just doing it to show you. You don't have to follow along with that. The database name, we're going to call it, let's say, production. And I can create a collection in this database. And let's say we're going to create a collection called jobs. And here we go. We are in the database called production. We are in the collection of jobs. We can create multiple collections, and we can also insert document in each of those collections. I'm going to insert a job of the title entrepreneur in the database. And here we go. We just created our first document in our database. You'll notice that we have this -id equal a long string of characters. This is something that is proper to MongoDB. That's how they identify unique documents. That's what makes them super fast to search across millions of documents. You don't really want to touch any of this. It's added by default, and we're going to use it later to retrieve and edit documents. Okay, so with MongoDB Cloud Atlas, you have set up your database, which is free. If one day you need to upgrade because your traffic is booming, you need more storage, or you need to have some backups, they have different types of databases, so you can expand. You also have access to this simple user interface where you can edit users, retrieve them, see your collections. And now we're going to install a little something to make human interaction with the database a little bit simpler.